Hello everybody, this is Llodg, and today I'm here with another How Does This Halo game hold up after so many years with Halo 3 ODST, which originally released on the Xbox 360 all the way back in 2009. Yep, a Halo spin-off side story that used Halo 3's engine and many of its assets. There are some new elements and weapons, but it's mostly another Halo 3 campaign, but I don't think anyone would really complain about that. Like my previous Halo retrospectives, I'm going to be talking about and showing off the MCC version of ODST, which was actually given to me for free by 343 because of how much they messed up MCC's launch. So I guess this is one of those Brox receive for free things. I don't know, but I did go back and buy an ODST on the 360 store, so... And with that, let's get into the video. Halo 3 ODST starts off with an outline of how the war is going. Spoiler alert, humanity is losing. And then we see the team of ODSTs talking about the mission at hand. And we see Buck, Mickey, Dutch, Romeo, and the newest member, Rookie. And oh, Veronica's also here, but she's an ONI agent, not an actual ODST. And yeah, you can probably guess by the title of the game, but instead of playing as a Spartan, we play as an ODST, which are the best soldiers that the UNSC had before the Spartans came around. And this marks the first time in a Halo game that we play as a human without actually playing as the Master Chief, which is pretty cool. And I'll go into the exact ways playing as an ODST differs in this game. Since you're an ODST instead of a Spartan or Elite, you don't have great cool space armor that has a shield. That's right, you just have some padding in your health to keep you alive. So kind of like Halo CE, there are some health packs scattered around the map, isn't too big of a deal. I mean, in Combat Evolved, if you have 1 health left, it was kind of over on the harder difficulties, but in this game, you do regen a little bit of it back. So the most annoying thing is when you have red all over your screen. But once again, I think it could have been a lot worse. And some of the more changes as an orbital drop shock trooper, you don't have a radar to see your enemies, and you can't dual wield since you are much weaker, and this marks the end of dual wielding actually being included in Halo games, for the player at least. There are some other differences, but they are more for world building / ease of access for this game, rather than what an ODST has versus a Spartan, so I'll talk about that stuff a bit later. And I should probably talk about the setting and story for this game. So this game takes place right after the initial Covenant invasion of Earth in Halo 2. That's right, Halo 3 ODST takes place during Halo 2. Yeah, I'm sure that didn't confuse people. Anyways, so yeah, this entire game takes place in and around the city of New Mombasa. So unlike the previous games, we'll get to see some different locations on just one planet. And here, I'll give a brief rundown of the story. And yeah, spoilers ahead for the rest of the video, but I'm sure you already knew that. So we start on a ship with the ODST squad talking about dropping into the Covenant's assault on Earth. Then we see Veronica Dare, an ONI agent who is taking this team to do a super secret ONI mission. Then we finally drop, and Veronica wants us to not go directly into the fight until the Covenant cruiser jumps to Delta Halo and leaves a giant shockwave that blows all the drop pods across the city. As the Rookie, we wake up hours later to scour the city for anything, and yeah, for a lot of this game, you play as the Rookie while walking through the city at night and go to different objects. And once you get to these different objects, you play levels that are similar to the past game's levels as these different characters of the squad. So for a lot of the story, it goes as Rookie finds something, flashes someone from the squad doing something, and then back to Rookie and repeat. So most of the squad is separated, but as Buck tries to find Veronica, he finds Romeo. Dutch is in the zoo for a bit, but with no animals. Mickey gets a tank and works with New Mombasa police while also being with Mickey. Then we try to defend an ONI building, only for them to have it blow it up. And while they're on a Pelican leaving, they locate Buck and Romeo. After fighting with a Roof Chieftain on a skyscraper, Romeo gets hurt, and then they travel through the sewers with a Banshee and a Phantom. And before they are home free, Buck is somehow able to piece together where Dare might be, which is doing the actual mission they were supposed to do from the start. And this is where Rookie's and everyone else's timelines kind of link up, so as the Rookie go underground, find Dare, go past the nest of my least favorite enemies in Halo, and find a former Covenant engineer who was named Virgil. No, not that Virgil, though I wish. He apparently has information on the Covenant that could be vital to win the war against them, so we get him out, finally meet up with Buck, and have an epic drive out of the city while we see Earth getting glassed and see scarabs roaming around. And this ends in a final holdout fight until the Phantom arrives, and everyone lives happily ever after. Until this book comes out. Though before the game ends, we see fan favorite and definitely alive Sergeant Johnson talking to Virgil to figure out what they know, and Buck cleans a monkey. And yeah, that's essentially the whole story of ODST, though obviously a little shortened and without some of the side stuff that you can actually find within the game. Unlike the previous 2 games, the story is pretty well contained and grounded for a military versus space alien shooter, so nothing crazy really happens, though that's not to say there aren't cool things that happen in this campaign, it's just a little bit more grounded than the previous games. I did leave out the part about Buck and Veronica having like a past romance history / kiss at the end of the game, but honestly, I don't really care for this storyline all that much. To me, it doesn't really add much to the game, but I guess it does add to their whole history, which is kind of cool, I guess. But I have to talk about the rookie's involvement in the story before he meets up with Dare. It's just so weird because from our point of view, he picks up something, just looks at it, and then thinks about it, and then throws it into the ocean or something. And I think it's supposed to be Virgil or something leading to these points, but it's honestly kind of weird for me. And now I'll talk about the rookie's gameplay in this kind of hub world. So in the streets of New Mombasa, you have to walk around in the night and fight various enemies while also making your way to these points that will throw you into the actual levels. And you do have a waypoint system and I'll tell you where to go if you get lost. You also have this map feature and bio thing if you want to know more about the lore, about the game, city, and characters. But I'll be honest, I never really use these features at all. I guess if you want to know more, there is an in-game way to know more. Oh, and there is this visor mode that outlines enemies in red and brightens up your screen. Just don't use it when it's bright outside. Another thing that is in this hub world that lets you know more are these terminals that function similarly to how they did in Halo 3, except instead of reading, you get these audio logs that tell you some story about when the Covenant first started invading. And once again, I didn't really search out for this. I mean, I even got achievements that this was my first time finding them in my videos. And some of them sound so similar, so it's weird, but I guess they're there for you to find if you want to fully complete the game. After seeing a lot of the levels in the game, I'm sure you're wondering how much of the levels are actually taken from Halo 3 since it uses Halo 3's engines and some assets, and I'm happy to report that the levels are all new and have assets that you would have never have seen in the original Halo 3. And a lot of the levels are actually really cool in their setting, despite the game taking place in and around the city. There's a very good amount of variety in it. And some of the levels even have some interesting set pieces like flying a Banshee through the sewer and finding a scarab or walking along a construction site on a skyscraper in the sky. Though the levels can be fairly short, some of them take even less than 20 minutes to beat, which makes it one of the shorter Halo games if you count time, but I think it works for the better. Any more in the game could start to feel a little bit bloated. Now I'll talk about the weapons, and almost all of them come directly from Halo 3, who would have guessed, but there are two new weapons, the suppressed pistol and SMG, which sound exactly like how you would think they'd be. Similar weapons from before, except they don't make much noise, and you can also zoom them in, which is the return of the pistol zoom-ins ever since it was removed in Halo 2. Also, I'm not sure if there is a stealth mechanic in this game that you would want to use these weapons, but they are silenced. Also, unless I'm wrong, these weapons replace their normal counterparts, and the battle rifle just isn't there in the game. And I don't think anything else is really missing from Halo 3, but those are the really big things that I at least noticed. The enemies in this game are honestly really similar to Halo 3. I know, big surprise, but being in the same time frame as the start of Halo 2, there was the potential for elites to actually be the enemies. However, the only elites you'll be seeing in this game are already dead, and I'm not sure if they just all died before we got to see them, or if the Great Schism happens and there was a civil war before we got here, which I doubt considering how close to the start of Halo 2 we are, but we sadly only fight brutes as the leaders of squads. Though there is a new enemy, the Engineers. However, I don't like killing them because of what we learn later on, and the Covenant has a real knack for using them as mobile bombs. So most of the time, I'll just ignore them and let them live their lives. Sometimes though, it can't be helped.
Oh, nuts.
Whoa! Whoa! Whoa!
Now to talk about the game's overall look, and I have to say Halo 3's graphic engine really holds up even in this game. ODST has a really different feel from 3, so it's nice that this game is able to rightfully get it across. This game also has some levels that use these like washed out orange filters that gives it a really distinctive feel that no other Halo game to my knowledge uses. ODST also has some really nice skyboxes that can be very pretty to look at, and just wonderful map design that I like looking at. There's also some times you can look up in the sky and see Covenant cruisers flying low in the atmosphere, and even some of them just glassing the planet. Which is something we haven't really seen in the games yet, from this point of view at least, which is weird since it was such a big thing in the books. And there's also some first-person cutscenes and moments that are really cool and marks a first in the series. These first-person cutscenes can really bring you into the characters more than a third-person cutscene could. And talking about design, I have to say that the ODST armor are really cool, and they make each of the squad members have really unique designs while also not having them be too radically different from each other. They even gave Veronica the recon helmet, so you know she's important. The ODST squad has some great voice actors, all of them fit their characters well, and we even have Nathan Fillion as Buck, which I'm sure you could tell just because they basically put him into Halo, but it's still really cool. And the rookie doesn't talk, but honestly after Master Chief basically being silent isn't a big deal, and the silence in the streets levels work really well. And now onto the soundtrack of this game, and first and foremost, like previous games, it is very good. However, it is fairly different than those previous games, as saxophones instead of being bombastic all the time, though it does have its faster paced moments in the soundtrack when needed, and you've been listening to the soundtrack for the entire video, so I'm sure you can tell. It also even has raindrop noises in the soundtrack just to give you that extra level of immersion, and I have to say while quite different, it still has the feel of a Halo soundtrack, and I definitely recommend you listen to it. Yeah, that's essentially all I really want to talk about, and yes, Halo 3 ODST is still good after all these years. While a shorter, more grounded story, it is still good and able to be enjoyed from both newcomers and veteran Halo campaign players alike. Unlike previous games where it's recommended that you play the first games to get the full experience, this one, while really enjoyable if you've played the others, can be a great starting point in the series. It has great characters, a great setting, and really good graphics that still hold up today. And of course, an amazing gameplay system that can stand the test of time. For the first of the Bungie FPS spin-off Halo titles, this is a really good start, and I really don't have much to complain about other than that I want more. I really recommend that you play this either on the original 360 or the Master Chief Collection, both are wonderful ways to play this game. And if you want to see more of my Halo retrospectives, you can watch the previous ones. They are there. I've done Combat Evolved through Halo 3, and I'm hoping to do at least Reach and 4 by the end of the year. So I hope you enjoyed the video, have a good day, and goodbye!